Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Not too hard tonight. Good evening and welcome to the Bellingham Special Town Meeting for November 18th, 2020. Appreciate the 46 hardy souls being here tonight. Thank you. My name is Michael Carr and I will be your moderator for this meeting. I now call the meeting to order. And I want to ask Mr. Michael Connor, our Chair of Board of Selectmen, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are able, please rise and remove your hats. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. I will now call upon our town clerk, Mr. Larry Pisano, for some voter training and refreshing. Mr. Clerk.
Good evening. First of all, has every registered voter received a clicker when you came in? Anybody that has not?
Pull the microphone down.
For a short person, is it better? Okay. All right, so I just wanted to review how this works. It's very simple. To turn it on, you'll see like a sort of a paper airplane type figure there. You just press that button and you should see in the left-hand corner a series of lines. When the questions come up, you'll see them on the screen. I know it's difficult to see them, but the moderator will help you with that. And then when you're called for a vote, Karen here, thank you to Karen for doing all of this, by the way, Karen Dutil. Will give us the signal when she's ready to vote. The moderator will let us know, go ahead and vote. You press either the yes or no button, okay? And it will be recorded. It will come up on the screen, and I just want to let you know that I know you can't see it tonight, but it will be on our website tomorrow, the actual graphs of all the votes. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we're going to start with a couple of sample questions. And the first one is, did you attend the last town meeting at the football field? You'll have 15 seconds to vote. Okay, you may vote. Okay, so 29 people attended last meeting and 10 did not. That's a total of 39. The next question is this the first time you're using one of these clickers? Yes or no? Okay, vote. Okay, 37 people have used them before, 5 have not. And then the last of the test questions is, do you believe that we should continue using these clickers and count them as an official way of voting for our town meeting in Bellingham? Okay, vote. Yes, 0 no. That's great. Glad to hear that. And the one last thing, you may change your mind as long as the voting is still open. You can change your mind. The last click that you do will be the one that counts when the voting is over. You're going to have 15 seconds for each vote. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Appreciate that. We will now have the reading of the warrant by Mr. Clerk.
To either of the constables of the town of Bellingham in the county of Norfolk, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections and in town affairs to meet at the high school auditorium located at 6 Blackstone Street in Bellingham on Wednesday, the 18th day of November 2020 at 7:30 p.m. Then and there to act upon the following articles.
Moderator, I waive the reading of the motion on warrant.
All those in favor this time can say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion passes. And we will continue. All right, just a few, before we begin the actual articles, just a few housekeeping matters tonight. I just want to remind everyone that if you're in the gym tonight that you need to be wearing a mask and maintaining proper distance from your neighbor. If you do not have a mask, we do have some tonight. Also want to let you know restrooms are the restrooms that are up the hallway that you would go on the way to the auditorium. Those are open this evening. I want to let you know if you wish to speak tonight, if you use the microphones that are located in the aisles. We also have some wipes, disinfectant wipes, they're on the chair right next to it. So if you'd like to wipe off the microphone, please do so. Before you speak, I'd ask that you state your name and your street address. And I ask that you please address your remarks to me and be respectful of others. I do want to recognize tonight we have our very own Mike Soder, our state representative, with us tonight. Representative Soder, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. And congratulations on your election. Please silence your phones if you not have already done so. And then we cover the voting will be by our electronic devices that everyone received. So with that, we are going to begin on Article 1.
Good evening. Article 1, amend annual town meeting Article 1, operating expenses and salaries. I move the town vote to amend the vote taken under Article 1 of the June 2020 annual meeting, establishing the fiscal year 2021 town operating budget by adding funds to items within said Article 1, all as written in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee, with said sums to be raised from taxation.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there a recommendation? It's recommended by the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, this motion requires a majority vote. So when we're ready to go, everybody, if you want in favor, you're going to vote yes, click 1. If you're opposed and want to vote no, click 2. And if you wish not to vote, please don't push anything. Karen, are we ready? All right, the time for voting has begun. Time for voting is over. It's 40 yes, 2 no. The motion passes and the article is adopted. Article 2.
Article 2, amend annual town meeting Article 2, trash enterprise. I move the town vote to amend the vote taken under Article 2 of the June 2020 annual town meeting, establishing the fiscal year 2021 trash enterprise fund budget by transferring $75,000 into the expense line of said Article 2. Said sum to be transferred from trash retained earnings.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there a recommendation? It is recommended by the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. This motion requires a majority vote. Karen, are we ready? Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has stopped. We have 44 yes, 0 no. The motion passes and the article is adopted. Article 3.
Mr. Moderator, move to pass.
We have a motion to pass. We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. This motion requires a majority vote. Please press 1 for yes. Oh, voice vote. Oh, okay, so we are actually going to do a voice vote. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion passes and the article is adopted. Article, not in front of me, 4.
Mr. Moderator, Article 4, move to pass.
We have a motion to pass. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, this motion requires a majority vote. We'll do it by a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The motion passes and the article is passed over. Article 5.
Mr. Moderator, I move to pass over Article 5 as well.
I have a motion to pass, a second. Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. Motion requires a majority vote. We will take it by a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion passes and the article is passed over. Article 6.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to appropriate a sum of money from various sources as described below and to authorize the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds or notes of the town, therefore, for the purpose of financing the purchase, construction, reconstruction, and/or engineering costs associated with the various capital outlay items or improvements proposed by the town departments, boards, or committees, all as follows, and for those items showing borrowing as the funding source, to authorize the treasurer with approval of the select board to borrow said sum pursuant to general law, chapter 44, section 7 or 8, or any other enabling authority, and issue bonds and notes therefore. And further, that any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with the general law, chapter 44, section 20, thereby reducing by a like amount the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, so here we go. The select board, land acquisition, a multi-year agreement in the amount of $96,000 from free cash. Fire, new ambulance rescue number 3, $369,881 from free cash. The library HVAC upgrade, $100,000 from free cash. Police, 2 police vehicles, replacing number 406 and number 410, and 2 remakes for auxiliary police and K9 use in the amount of $127,035 from free cash. Also for the police, a repeater receiver upgrade in the amount of $51,770 from free cash. MIS technology, e-permitting software expansion, $53,035 from free cash. DPW highway plow and salt truck to replace truck B19 in the amount of $221,000 from free cash. DPW highway again, small hook truck with hot box, $110,800 from free cash, and a multi-hog tractor for snow removal and a tractor, $190,000 free cash. DPW highway backhoe, $124,000 from trash and retained earnings. DPW highway underground storage tank removal, $60,000 from borrowing. DPW water, Scott Hill Boulevard, post water main installation road resurfacing, $125,000 from water retained earnings. DPW water, Fourier Street, water main replacement, $130,000 from water retained earnings. DPW water from Link Street, new water main installation, $130,000 from water retained earnings. Well number 10, preliminary analysis for a new well site, $110,000 from water retained earnings. DPW sewer, North Main Street generator replacement, $86,526 $50,000 from sewer retained earnings, $36,526 from Article 5 from special town meeting on October 11th, 2017. The schools replace the high school gymnasium floor and remediate excess humidity issues, $548,000 from borrowing. And again for the school, the middle school entrapment area, $160,000 free cash. Do I read the total amounts? Do I need to read the total amounts? That's it.
All right, we have the motion. I have a second. Is there any recommendation? Recommended by the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. This motion requires a 2/3 vote. We are going electronic on this one, so if you remember, if you're in favor, one of... That's okay. Yes, sir. It means if you have a question, you're free to approach the microphone and ask your question. Well, if you have some concerns or, sure, why not? Why don't you approach the microphone if you could identify yourself and your street, please.
Police here, I better. Hi, Jim Carlo, 391 South Main Street. You know, we're almost 30-year homeowner. I feel I have the right to say something, and I wasn't going to say anything.
That's all right. That's why we're all here.
Yeah, someone when I came in said you can't speak to me.
No,
I said, what? So for that
this is...
I just came up to say something like, I'm the gym floor. I've been working for the school for 20 years now, and in 53 years, 30 of which I've been a homeowner, I've seen a lot of crazy things sneak through where I've gone, right? Well, whatever. So on the school floor, this is undeniable. The proof is what you're looking at. I've heard being in school complaints of people playing on it, balls going by the directions, other students laughing at it. So if anyone wants to vote on it and say no on the floor, please don't say because it doesn't need it. Say now we don't want to pick. All right, but as far as I'm concerned, as a resident and would like, I don't even have kids, but I don't mind supporting the school system because I was one of them. So let's not be selfish. Let's take care of the floor for the kids and buy less stupid stuff. That's all.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments on that. Anybody else? All right, seeing no one else. Again, this motion is a 2/3 motion. We will use our electronic devices. If you are in favor and want to vote yes, you're going to press 1. If you're opposed, vote no, click 2. If you wish not to vote, don't push. Karen, are we ready? Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 40 yes, 3 no. The motion passes by a 2/3 vote and the article is adopted. Article 7.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to appropriate a sum of money from various sources for the purposes of financing the purchase and installation of various non-capital outlay items or improvements proposed by town departments, boards, or committees, all as written in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there a recommendation? It is recommended by the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. This motion requires a majority vote. All those in favor are going to press 1. If you're opposed, 2. Karen? Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 38 yes, 4 no, the motion passes and the article is adopted. Article 8. This is a petition.
Yes, hi.
Mr. Planner.
Hi, good evening, everyone. If you don't mind, if the town meeting would consider moving it to the end of the warrant, the petitioner had contacted me saying he is going to be late. It's just a request of his.
I would. Moderator discretion, we are moving Article 8 to the end. Thank you, Mr. Planner. Brings up Article 9. No. Yes. All right, we have Article 9. We have a motion to pass. I have a second. Any discussion? That's okay. Happy to have you participate, but I need you at the microphone.
Oh, just to explain, other than my family and maybe my employer, I don't like people telling me this stuff. When something is passed on, does that mean it's automatically brought up at the next meeting? Like we're passing on stuff and whatnot, and when does that get brought up against that? You know what I'm saying?
They're a very good question. Somebody want to field that one for the gentleman?
It does not mean that it would come back to the next meeting. It would have to go through the warrant process again, the hearing process. So it just means that there's the reason initially it was put on no longer is there. So we're taking no action on it.
All right.
Thank you, sir. So this motion requires a majority vote. We're going to do it by a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion passes and the article is passed over. Article 10.
Article 10, Maple Street roadway layout alteration easement. I move the town to vote to accept the altered layout of a portion of Maple Street as a public way, as heretofore altered by the Board of Selectmen to include with said layout a parcel of land shown as proposed roadway easement area, 9,399 square feet on a plan entitled Easement Plan of Land, dated October 30, 2018. Kelly Engineering Group, on file with the town clerk, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by purchase, gift, or eminent domain the fee to and/or a current easement in said parcel for all purposes for which public ways are used in the town of Bellingham, and any drainage, utility, or other easements incidental or related thereto.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there a recommendation? Recommended by the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. This motion requires a 2/3 vote. We are going to go electronic. You're going to vote 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen, are we ready? Ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 41 yes, 2 no. The motion passes and the article is adopted by a 2/3 vote. Are we on article? I don't have to do it.
I move to pass on Article 11.
I have a motion to pass. I have a second. Any discussion? All right, this is a majority vote. It will be by voice. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion passes and the article is passed over. Article 12.
Article 12, Fox Pond Drive drainage easements. I move the town to vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, and/or eminent domain permanent drainage easements and temporary construction easements in, on, and under a portions of parcels of land located on Fox Pond Drive,
identified by the assessors as parcels 0038-0009-0003 and 0038-0023-002, and shown on a plan entitled Town of Bellingham, Fox Pond Drive Drainage Easement Plan, dated September 30, 2020, prepared by Lands Planning, Inc., and on file with the town clerk, and to transfer from free cash the sum of $2,000 for the purpose of authorized hereunder, including any related expenses.
I have a motion, I have a second. Is there a recommendation? It is recommended by the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, this motion requires a 2/3 vote. We're going to take it electronically. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen, we ready? The time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 44 yes, 2 no. The motion passes by a 2/3 vote, and the article is adopted. Article 13.
Article 13, Water Main Easement Acquisition, North Main Street to Cliff Road. I move the town votes authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, and/or eminent domain permanent water main easements and temporary construction easements in, on, and under a portion or portions of the parcels of land located at 115 North Main Street, identified as assessors parcels 0035-077A-0000, as approximately shown on a plan entitled North Main Street to Cliff Road Water Main, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk, and to transfer the sum of $10,000 from water retained earnings for the purposes of this article, including any related expenses.
I have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation? Recommended by the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, this motion requires a 2/3 vote. We're going to take it electronically. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. We have 40 yes, 4 no. The motion passes by a 2/3 vote, and the article is adopted. Article 14.
Article 14, lease of town land. I move the town to vote to transfer the care, custody, and control of the property described below from the tax custodian for tax title purposes to the Board of Selectmen for general municipal purposes and for the purpose of leasing, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate and enter into a lease as well as payment in lieu of tax agreement pursuant to General Law, Chapter 5938HB, and to convey any necessary access or utility easements on, over, and under adjacent town-owned property for the development of a solar array and/or solar electric storage on town property at 26 Pearl Street, formerly known as the Pearl Street site identified as Town of Bellingham Assessors Map 4, Parcel 60, for a period up to 30 years on such terms and conditions as the selectmen deem in the best interest of the town.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there a recommendation? It is recommended by the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, this motion requires a 2/3 vote. We're going to take it electronically. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 44 yes, 3 no. The motion passes by a 2/3 vote, and the article is adopted. Article 15.
Article 15, update section 205-7, conduct of town meeting. Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to amend section 205-7, subsections J and M of the town bylaws to specifically recognize and authorize electronic voting at any and all town meetings by inserting the text shown in bold, underline, and deleting the text shown with strike through. All as written in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there a recommendation? Recommended by the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, this motion requires a majority vote. We're going to take the vote electronically. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen, we're ready. Voting has begun. Time for voting is ended. We have 49 yes, 0 no. The motion passes and the article is adopted. Article 16.
Article 16, amend general bylaws, chapter 71-6, revolving funds. Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote pursuant to chapter 44, section 53E of the general laws to amend chapter 71-6 of the town bylaws, revolving funds, by inserting the underlined text, replacing the use of funds column in its entirety, and creating a new annual expenditure limit of $50,000 for the inspectional services revolving fund, all as written in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee, with all such expenditure limits to apply from fiscal year to fiscal year unless amended by vote of town meeting prior to July 1st in any year.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there a recommendation? Recommended by the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
I didn't have a chance to check all this out, so I'm not quite sure about it. So all I did was try and find, but the main thing I'm looking at is it says revenue source, right? And it's saying gifts, donations, fees, and fines. That's how we're making that money? What if we have no gifts or donations? How is that, how else would this money be gotten? Who is all this $50,000? If one says, I'm by wish.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last statement.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just want to make sure that if we appropriate this, that we don't solely rely on gifts, donations, fees, and fines. What if that amount doesn't total what we're appropriating for?
Excellent question. Mr. Moderator, may I respond?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. So what we're talking about doing is modifying the upper limits that are available to expend in a revolving fund. But we are, in addition to the upper limits, we are also limited to the amount of funds that are actually in the fund. So to answer your first question, if we do not take in gifts, fines, donations, or other fees, then there will be no money to expend. So if we only took in, say, for example, on the food inspections revolving fund, we only took in $5,000 that year, then we would only be able to spend the $5,000 that we took in. We're not setting these limits as a hard appropriation. We're not appropriating the full 35,000 or 10,000 or 50,000. That's just an upper limit that we are restricted to should we incur expenses in a given fiscal year.
All right, so who decides if we only receive a portion? I see on these, many things are identified the money is going to. So if we don't receive the whole allotted amount, to that, who decides where it goes in that department?
So there is, if you can see that there in the third column, called the authority to spend, that is the board or committee that makes the recommendations on how to spend those funds.
I think I get that now.
Excellent. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for the question and the answer. All right. Any further discussion? All right. This This motion requires a majority vote. We're going to take it electronically, 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen? We are good. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 44 yes, 3 no. The motion passes and the article is adopted. Article 17.
Mike Reed, 14 Brittany Road, from the Bellingham School Committee. Mr. Moderator, for Article 17, Special Education Reserve Fund, I move the town vote to adopt Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 13E, to establish a Special Education Reserve Fund from which monies may be only distributed after a majority vote of the school committee and a majority vote of the Board of Selectmen.
I have the motion. I have a second. Is there a recommendation? That's not recommended by the Finance Committee? Any discussion? Yes, sir. Just to the microphone you were previously at, and if you don't mind re-identifying yourself and your street, please. Thank you.
Okay. I hear that. I would like to know why it's not recommended by the Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman?
Would it be helpful for me to explain a little bit of what it was too, instead of putting Mr. Allen on the?
Yeah, why don't we do that? Mr. Reed, what have you?
All right, so the
please proceed.
The legislation was passed, sets up an opportunity for regional school districts and municipal school districts to set up this reserve fund that can be used to fund it with and use for unanticipated and unbudgeted costs of special education, which can often wildly fluctuate and can surprise us. You know, if families move in that have high needs and services that we have to send students for out of our district for tuition and pay for transportation, or they may need special services that are not budgeted for and can create great expense. This gives us the opportunity to create a fund so that if we can set aside a certain amount of money and put it there, we can plan in advance for such kind of emergencies or critical situations that can really impact our budget in a negative way during the course of the year. The fund, as it's set up, it limits the amount of money that can ever be put in there to 2% of what our annual budget is. And it also, in order for the money to be spent, once it's in that fund, it has to be approved by the school committee and also by the Board of Selectmen. So there's another layer of oversight there. And so that's what the fund is created to do. We see it as an opportunity for an additional tool to help us through difficult times that can be created by unanticipated special education expenses. And that's what was presented to the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Chairman?
I'm still questioning why you don't.
Well,
you don't recommend it.
That's right, sir. We're going to give the chance for the Finance Committee if they so desire.
Sources of the ones that we don't implement would be unspent funds that were motivated to be spent on the school fund, rather than unspent funds going back into the general fund, which is the rule now. This would be unspent funds going into a special reserve fund. And that's the reason the Finance Committee does not recommend.
Okay. Well, as a resident, to be honest with you, the way Mr. Reed explained it, in this day and age, with all the special needs requirements and things that do pop up in general life that you don't expect, this just looks like a way to be able to handle some of that, maybe responsibly, and have it available. And there sounds like there's many checks and balances, so it wouldn't be blown on stupid stuff. So I would think we should provide for the people in here that have disabilities and needs that families might have a hard time providing for, and maybe something could be done with this, of money that people are looking out for. It won't be misspent, and it'll be spent on people that need it. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Connor?
Mr. Moderator, this article is co-sponsored by the Board of Selectmen, who voted unanimously in favor. Both the Board of Selectmen and School Committee have to vote to deposit funds into the reserve as well as to distribute funds from the reserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor, for that clarification. Mr. Reed?
I'm just remaining at the helm here in case anybody has a question.
Good man. And yes, the gentle lady at the back, if you could make your way to a microphone, please, and identify yourself and your street address, please.
Hi, Doreen Kearns, 9 Brook Street. I just was wondering, where is the money coming from for this reserve fund?
That's a great question. There could be opportunities during the year if we have excess in certain budgets that didn't end up getting spent down. Okay, we could have a retirement, that person could be replaced with somebody with less salary. We could have a great year winter-wise and spend less money on oil or on electricity or something like that, and we end up having a slight surplus in some area of the budget. This would give us an opportunity to put the money in a reserve fund to kind of plan for difficult circumstances down the road. You know, as Mr. Allen had indicated, normally that money could go back to the town. Okay, and so we feel this gives us an opportunity to have flexibility and plan for difficult situations down the road.
Right, so this comes from the school department fund, your whole general fund.
Right. I think technically we could try to budget in to try to include an allocation towards this fund each year too, and that would be capped at 2% of our spending. But anyone who knows who's come to these meetings and pays attention to our budgets, there's not a lot of extra money lying around and throwing. This gives us an opportunity, I think, to properly manage the bonuses that we get sometimes or the breaks that we get sometimes when there are some savings. So.
As a parent of an adult child with special needs, I support and I'm in favor of this, because I will tell you, when my child was in the school system, there were situations that he was not able to get different things that he needed, but this was a long time ago, so I definitely support this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, this motion requires a majority vote, and we're going to be electronically, 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen, are we ready? The time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. We have 40 yes, 9 no. The motion passes and the article is adopted. Article 18.
Article 18, transfer to stabilization fund. Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 for the purpose of funding the stabilization fund.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there a recommendation?
Recommended by the Finance.
Recommended by the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. This is a motion requires a majority vote. We'll vote electronically. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen? Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 39 yes, 6 no. The motion passes and the article is adopted. Article 19.
Article 19, unpaid bills. Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer sums of money for the payment of certain unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year from the sources and for the purposes identified, all as written in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee.
So I have a motion. I have a second. Is there a recommendation?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
It is recommended by the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. This motion requires a 9/10 vote. We're going to be voting electronically. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen? Ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. We have 45 yes, 2 no. The motion passes by a 9/10 vote, and the article is adopted. All right, that brings us back to Article 8. Is the petitioner here? Yes, sir. Please make your way to the microphone and identify yourself.
Good evening. My name is Mark Allen with Allen Engineering Associates. I'm here to explain the Coryn Circle and Monique Drive street acceptance. We have applied with the Planning Department, the Finance Department, and the DPW for the former Macy School location. If you recall, the Macy School was demolished and 12 new homes were built, and all of the infrastructure for those 12 homes has been completed in compliance with the subdivision rules and regulations, and we're here seeking that the town accept these as public ways.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Frame?
Mr. Moderator, Mr. Allen's not a resident of the town, so I believe he needs someone to read that motion. Is that correct?
Okay.
So would you like me to read your motion for you?
Yes, please.
Can you sign them and give 2 copies to the town moderator?
Absolutely. I just need a pen.
In the meantime, I'll go ahead and read it. I move the town vote to accept as public ways the roads identified as Coryn Circle and Monique Drive, shown on a plan entitled Roadway Acceptance Plan for Monique Drive and Coryn Circle in Bellingham, Mass., which plan is on file at the office of the town clerk, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by purchase, gift, and/or eminent domain the fee to and/or permanent easements in said ways for all purposes for which public ways are used in the town of Bellingham, and any drainage, utility, or other easements incidental or related thereto.
I have a motion. I have a second. Do whatever you need to do there. Do we have any discussion on this matter? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, right? Sounds like a good thing, but we have to pay for it after this, right? We're taking responsibility if we agree to these roads, right? For snow removal and all that, right?
Somebody help the gentleman with his question, Mr. Frame?
Yes, we are, and the taxpayers that live there will be paying their share towards the whole plan. So it's the road's built to our standards. The planning board accepts it, the DPW looks at it, and the people that live there and pay taxes look to have their road taken care of. So
absolutely.
Yeah. That's
so all I'm asking, which is why I don't mind paying for things that we get, who do we have that checks to make sure this is all good and done before we say it?
That's why it's a very good question. It's a lengthy process. The planning board requires it to be built to a certain standard. We have it inspected by our town inspector to make sure that it is built to that standard. Then they turn around and inspect it, certify it back to the planning board, and both the planning board and the DPW director make recommendations to the planning board before it ever comes here. So
it does not come here until the town says, yeah, we think it's a good idea too.
Yep, right. Until everybody's inspected it and made sure it was built to the town standards.
Okay. All right, thanks.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the question and the answer. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, seeing none, this motion requires a 2/3 vote. We take it electronically, 1 for yes, 2 for no. Karen? Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. We have 39 yes, 1 no. The motion passes by a 2/3 vote, and the article is adopted. That brings us to the close of the articles. I have a motion to adjourn. I have a second. We'll take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The motion passes, and we are adjourned. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and be safe out there.